Welcome to Rob Rides Cargo Bikes. In this video, I'll be recapping and analysing the 2024 Eurobike Euro Cargo Cup cargo bike race. So let's take a look. Well, here we are at Europe's biggest bike show. I've always wanted to go to Eurobike as I've been into bikes all my life, but it was cargo bikes that pushed me the hardest to go, and of course, I had to race. So here's a quick recap of the rules for those who are new to cargo bike racing. There's a few different formats to cargo bike racing, but here's a quick rundown of the race format and rules at this particular venue. So up to 4 riders race in a heat through to quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then hopefully finals if you're fast enough. Each heat is 4 laps. The first lap is ridden empty. You load your cargo on the second lap, complete 2 laps loaded, unload on the final lap, and then finish the race empty. There are 4 sets of identical cargo, so each rider has the same load. In this case, there was a Eurobox, a pool noodle, 1 filled 5-litre water container, and a folding chair. Okay, so the first heat of the day was actually only 3 riders to account for filling the brackets fairly. The top 2 riders of the 3 go through. I was actually quite pleased that the first heat was only 3 riders because, as you'll see, the course was a bit tighter than the previous venues that we've raced at, so it was a good opportunity to get used to the course and having a bit of traffic there as well. In this heat, there's me on my Miss Bullet, there's Daniel on an Momentum, and there's Max on a Ginkgo. So good start from me there, like to be first into the first corner, as regular viewers will know. And as we ride around this corner, you can see all this orange paint on the floor, which is highlighting a load of raised drain covers. And it was actually a bit off camber as well, and it was quite easy to go wide on that corner. And then left past the paddock there. And now we go into this left-right-hander combination, which was quite tricky. You could ride it slow and then inside it, or you could also ride it fast and outside it, but then obviously you're opening the door one way or the other. And as we ride into the cargo area, I'm staying outside of the red line there for the first load of the day, and I'm actually loading the cargo on the pallet as much as I can to try and be a little bit more economical. So there's the Eurobox, the pool noodle, the 5-litre water container, and then I've just thrown the chair on top. I'm struggling with it a little bit there, but I've chosen not to secure my load this time. I'd done a few practice runs before the race started and a few sort of shake tests and bump tests, and I was quite confident that the cargo wasn't going to come out. And you see Daniel on the Momentum there has had a much better load, so he's quite far ahead, but I can also see that Max has struggled with his load, and he's almost half a lap back. So like I say, the top 2 go through. I'm not relaxed at this point, but I'm not stressing either. There we go around that long corner, and you can see as I cross the start-finish line here that Max on the Ginkgo is basically half a lap back. So, like I say, I'm trying to save a little bit of energy. Daniel's quite far off into the distance on the Momentum, and just trying to sort of manage the gap a little bit behind so as not to go too fast, too soon, and then also not to have Max catch up. So you can see the chair's moving around quite a lot there, but like I say, I've done some practice runs and I'm quite confident it's not going to fall out. And now we come into the first unload of the day. Come in behind Daniel there, and you'll be able to see my tactic for unloading now, which is to be able to take everything off in one go. Then all I have to do is unfold the chair, jump back on the bike, and away I go. And you can see with that unload there, I've managed to make up quite a lot of time on Daniel. But I can also see that Max is like really quite far behind on the Ginkgo. And just to say about Max, he actually had previously raced the Grind Euro event on his Ginkgo, so he was absolutely by no means a slouch. I think he was just struggling a little bit with the style of his bike and loading the cargo quickly. So at this point, I'm fairly sure that I'm through to the next heat. The semi-final, and Daniel crosses the line in first and I come across in second to qualify for the semi-final. So actually at this point I wasn't feeling very good. I was having a bit of a wobble between the first heat and the semi-final. I didn't feel too good, my stomach sort of playing up a little bit. I wasn't really expecting to advance at this point, to be honest. I can only blame myself for my dodgy nutritional choices.
Something from this kebab shop.
But we'll see how that worked out. We're back up to a field of 4 riders now for the semi-finals, which was really quite tricky on the tight track. But the top 2 go through to the final. So in this heat, there's me on my Miss Bullet. There's Giovanni on a Bici Carpaccio, who I'd had a very close race with once before at Velo, so I know he's fast. There was a rider on a very nice shorty Pinion Bullet. I forgot his name, very sorry. And Niklas on the Mully, who won the collective cargo bike race this year in Berlin. So quite a tough semi-final here. Okay, another good start from me there, first into the first corner. But you can see that I pushed really wide in this corner. I just went into it a bit too fast, I think. I just didn't turn enough, I don't think, and it kind of lost my flow. And then you can see in the rear camera there that Niklas takes Giovanni for second place and then comes right up the inside me for the left-right here. And absolutely throwing that mully around like it was a BMX. Honestly, that was so cool to see. Some really fun racing. Really like racing against Niklas. He just is wild. And then we come into the load area, staying outside the red line, and I'm trying to load the pallet, the Eurobox on the pallet again. I see Niklas dropped his bike there, he's losing some time. I managed to sort of have a pretty good load, come in second and then leave in first place, and then Giovanni right behind me for second place, also overtaking Niklas. Yeah, feeling pretty good at this point. Honestly, quite surprised to be leading based on how I was feeling. I know the top two go through, so I know I've got a little bit of position to play with. But I also know that Giovanni and Niklas are not going to just sort of let me ride away, so still have to keep my wits about me and put some effort in. Now, on that rear camera, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but Niklas and Giovanni came together. Apparently, there was no contact, but Giovanni had to almost come to a complete stop to avoid hitting the fence. And then in doing so, lost second place to Niklas, who was on an absolute charge. You can see him in the rear camera really catching me up pretty quickly here. But like I say, I know the top two go through, so I know I can afford to lose a position. And I feel like my unload is pretty good with my unload all at once technique. And then you can see Niklas right behind now. He's thinking about having an overtake into the cargo area, but I guess there was no point really. But still nice close racing. There we go, into my favoured loading position. You can see the chair move forward quite a lot there when I stopped. It's always a danger of having an unsecure load, but it worked out. And all I have to do is unfold the chair on the pallet, and away I go. So I've actually built up quite a big lead here for the final lap of the semi-final. Honestly, really quite surprised. But I know Giovanni and Niklas are racing hard for the final transfer spot into the final. So I can't just rest on my laurels and phone it in for the last lap. So I still have to put a bit of effort in just to make sure I'm through. And there we go, across the line, first place in the semi-final, somehow qualified for the finals despite feeling pretty rubbish. Stoked. So I somehow made it to the final of the Eurobike Euro Cargo Cup. I am absolutely super stoked at this point. I know I always say I'm stoked to reach the final, but I genuinely am. I don't feel like I'm the fittest rider, I'm not the fastest rider, so I kind of feel like I'm always on a bit of a wing and a prayer getting through to the finals. And I'd heard so much before this race that there's a lot of fast riders at the Eurobike race, so I was just really stoked to get to the final at this point. I started to feel a bit better as well because there was a few short breaks between the heats, and I guess adrenaline was starting to take over at this point. So in this final, there's me on my Miss Bullet. There's Clemens, who's the owner of Momentum, on the green Momentum. There's Niklas on the Muli, and Daniel on the purple Momentum. So let's see how this final plays out. And another great start for me, first to the first corner, so I'm definitely giving myself the definitely legitimate finals whole shot award. But then you can see this is a final, there's no making gaps at this point. Niklas is right behind me, and I'm very much humbled on this next corner as Niklas turns the left hand outside into the right hand inside, pushes me a little bit wide, and that opens the door for Daniel to overtake me on the inside as well. So I've gone from first to third in one corner as we enter the cargo area for the final time, or the final load. Staying outside the red line there, and I'm sticking to my plan of loading on the pallet as much as I can to try and be a little bit more efficient, but my cursed relationship with pool noodles means that I'm having to faff around with the pool noodle in the final again, and then struggling a bit with the chair, and then in we go, and I've gone from first to last place in the space of one lap and one load, and they're all riding off into the distance. So I remember at this point, I don't want to give up, but I remember on this straight having flashbacks to the Velo race in Berlin, being in fourth place in the final and not getting a trophy, being quite disappointed about it. But, you know, I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself as I round the corner, but then I try and focus on knowing I have a good unload, and I just try to keep third place in my sights. I'm absolutely going all out at this point, and I'll just turn the volume up. You can hear me breathing over the wind, so I must have been going really hard at this point. So I'm slowly catching Clemens in third place as we approach the back corner. Like, I'm really banking a lot on my fast unload technique here, because I know Clemens has been laying his bike down to load and unload every time he gets into the cargo area. I mean, I don't think it's the fastest, but he managed to make it work. He got to the final as well, and he was in front of me at this point, so it must have been working for him. So there we are, managed to do my fast unload. Just need to unflip the chair, unfold the chair, and then it's a drag race for third place into this next corner, which I just about managed to win. I'm just all out. And then if you look behind in the rear camera now, you can see Clemens hasn't given up. He's still on the power out of that last corner. But me, I'm just head down, absolutely pushing as hard as I can, not looking back at all, just focusing on what's ahead, trying to think about that third place trophy. And then I come around this final corner. I'm not sure where Clemens is. I haven't looked back, and I'm just sprinting, trying to secure that third place. And there we go. Cross the line, third place, Eurobike Euro Cargo Cup final. I'm super stoked on that. Like, for me, it's like quite unbelievable that I managed to get to the final, let alone onto the podium. All I'd heard before this race, that it was like a really tough race with a lot of fast people, and that obviously turned out to be true. Yeah, just really, really stoked, really happy with how it went. There was some like really great racing, and there's really great camaraderie and a really nice community feel in the cargo bike racing as well. So I'd like to say huge props to Daniel for winning every heat and the final in his first ever cargo bike race. Kind of think like he humbled all of us there a little bit. To Nicholas for throwing that moolie around like a BMX, and to Clemens for pushing me right to the end of the final. Shout out to all the other racers on the day, as there was some really close racing throughout the heats as well. I need to say a massive thanks to Ben on the mic and to the cargo bike race team for saving the race, as there was a sickness in the team that jeopardized the event just 48 hours before it was supposed to start. But they all pulled through and put on a great race regardless. I'd like to make another call to action for everyone to enter a cargo bike race, as they're just so much fun. Women are very underrepresented, as there was only one woman who chose to race the main event. However, there was an all-female relay race team, which was absolutely fantastic to see. I'm not sure what race I'll get to next, I'm not sure when the race videos will make a return, but please consider subscribing to the channel for more cargo bike content, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. See you in the next one.